सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Om. Today I will give you a summary of the 12th chapter. The 12th chapter happens to be the culmination of the middle section of the Bhagavad Gita, which is known as Madhyama Shatkam. I had told you before that the first 6 chapters of the Gita are called Prathama Shatkam. Then the next 6 chapters, beginning from the 7th up to the 12th, is known as Madhyama Shatkam. And the last 6 chapters are known as Charama Shatkam. And 12th chapter is the final chapter of the Madhyama Shatkam. And in the previous 5 chapters, beginning from the 7th up to the 11th, Lord Krishna has elaborately dealt with the topic of Ishvara Swarupam. While the first 6 chapters dealt with Jiva Swarupam, from 7th to the 11th chapters, Krishna dealt with Ishvara Swarupam, the nature of God. And naturally, this topic of Ishvara Swarupam should culminate in bhakti towards such an Ishvara. Bhakti means love or devotion, and love or devotion is possible only towards something or someone who is known. You can never have a positive or negative emotion towards an unknown person. When you meet an unknown person, your attitude is what? A neutral attitude only. Only when you move with the person and come to know more and more about that person, you develop either liking towards the person or dislike. And that is how locally also we hear of people moving together and falling in love. All because of what? The more the contact is, the more a person comes to know, and that knowledge is the basis for the attitude. You can never develop an attitude towards an unknown thing. If this is the general law, your attitude towards God also will depend upon your knowledge of God. I can never love an unknown God. And therefore, if I expect you to develop love or devotion, I should never command you to love, because you can never develop love towards an unknown. I have to give you knowledge, and knowledge alone can contribute to a healthy attitude. If I want you to develop love towards the country, I have to talk about the glory of the country. You may ask, is there any glory at all? That is a different thing. I can never force an attitude. An attitude is not command-based. An attitude is not will-based. An attitude is generated based on your understanding. And Krishna knows this principle, and therefore 5 chapters Krishna or Vyasacharya devoted in giving you the knowledge of God. And now that we know what that God is, the consequence will be what? A healthy attitude towards the Lord. And that attitude is called bhakti. Ishvara jnanam vina Ishvara bhakti na sambhavati. Ajnata vishaye bhavana naiva sambhavati. And therefore 12th chapter is a natural consequence and culmination of the previous 5 chapters. And this chapter, even though is a short one consisting of only 20 verses, it is a very, very important chapter because in this chapter, Krishna has condensed the essence of the entire Vedic teaching. Not even the entire Vedantic. It is an entire Vedic teaching, both Veda Purva Bhaga as well as Veda Anta Bhaga, both are condensed in 20 pithy verses, and therefore only this chapter is considered important. And of course, people think this is important because it is small also. So easy to do Parayanam, easy to get by heart also. So that is practical reason. But the real reason is, this is Veda Saraha. And that is why at the end of this 12th chapter, Krishna himself uses the word Yetu Dharmya Amritamidam. The word Dharmyam indicates this chapter is the essence of Vaidika Dharmaha Veda Saraha. And this chapter has got mainly 2 topics. The first topic being Bhakti Yoga, and the second topic is Bhakti Yoga Phalam. What is the benefit of a result of Bhakti Yoga? These are the 2 main topics. But before entering into this topic, Lord Krishna incidentally answers a question raised by Arjuna. And therefore the chapter begins with a question from Arjuna, which is based on the previous chapter. In the previous chapter, namely the 11th chapter, Lord Krishna has talked about Saguna Ishvaraha, otherwise known as Vishwarupa Ishvaraha. The Lord as the very universe itself is called Vishwarupa Ishvaraha. Vishwarupa Ishvara comes under Saguna Ishvara because the world is full of gunas or attributes or properties, and therefore Vishwarupa is Saguna Ishvara. And Arjuna has heard a lot about Nirguna Ishvara also, and therefore Arjuna gets a doubt regarding the relative superiority of Saguna and Nirguna Ishvara. And consequently, another doubt is whether Saguna Bhakta is superior or Nirguna Bhakta is superior. Saguna Upasaka is superior, Nirguna Dhyata is superior. Arjuna gets a doubt. And generally we are attracted to the Saguna Ishvara alone, because Nirguna we are not even able to conceive of. And therefore the chapter begins with Arjuna's question, Evam satata yuktaye bhaktastvam paryupasate echapyaksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittama. So Saguna Dhyanam is better or Nirguna Dhyanam is better. And what was Krishna's answer? Krishna gives a peculiar and mischievous answer, but we should understand the implication of Krishna's answer. The implication is we should never ask which one is better, because this question is relevant only when you want to choose one of them. The question is relevant only when you want to choose, and as far as Krishna is concerned, there is no question of choosing one of them, because every seeker requires Saguna Dhyanam also, and every seeker ultimately has to come to Nirguna also. Without Saguna Dhyanam, one can never come to Nirguna Dhyanam, because Saguna Dhyanam is the stepping stone to arrive at Nirguna Dhyanam. So without Saguna Dhyanam, one cannot come to Nirguna Dhyanam. And without Nirguna Dhyanam, I hope you remember, without Nirguna Dhyanam, Saguna Dhyanam is an incomplete sadhana. So therefore, everybody has to go through Saguna first, and everybody has to come to Nirguna. One can postpone coming to Nirguna, but one cannot avoid that. If a person feels he is not ready, he can postpone it, and the postponement can be 1 year, 10 years, or even 10 janmas. We don't care, but one has to come to Nirguna, because Nirguna Ishvara is the ultimate reality, which is based on the well-known Kenopanishad saying, Tadeva Brahmatvam Vidhi Nedam Edidam Upasate. The Saguna Ishvara that you meditate upon is never the ultimate reality. You should remember, the ultimate reality is never a Saguna object of meditation. And therefore, Krishna's answer is what? Everybody has to go through both of them. Both of them means what? Saguna and Nirguna. And after answering Arjuna's question, Krishna enters the two topics, namely Bhakti Yoga Sadhana and Bhakti Yoga Sadhana Phalam. And what is Bhakti Yoga Sadhana? I have told you several times, and I will repeat again. It is very important. Bhakti Yoga is not the name of a particular sadhana, but it is the name of a range of sadhanas everyone has to go through. It is a series It is a package. இப்போல்லாம் இந்த பேர்லாம் போடணும். It is a package. And this package consists of how many levels? So the levels can be any number depending upon the context. Sometimes it is presented as 2 levels. Sometimes it is presented as 3 levels. But here Krishna presents Bhakti Yoga as a series consisting of 5 levels or 5 stages. And which is important? Don't ask. Everyone is important. Remember, a flight of stairs, a staircase, which rung or which step is important, you cannot ask. Every step is important to go to the next step. And what are the 5 levels? The first level is Sakama Karma Pradhana Karma Yoga. We can call it Karma Yoga level 1 or Karma Yoga 1. This is the beginning stage which everyone can very easily start. In this level, a person is allowed to do any karma to fulfill his personal desires. Because everyone is born with countless number of desires which are carried from previous janma. எதை கொண்டு வரோமோ கொண்டு வரலையோ இதை கொண்டு வரோம். காமான்யः காமயதே மன்யமானः ச காமபிர்ஜாயதே தத்ர தத்ர. Because in this janma there are so many desires which are not fulfilled. One person used to tell me, Swamiji, I have one desire, very, very strong desire. You know what? He likes a particular brand of car called Land Cruiser. அதுக்கு எத்தனையோ லட்சம் விலை, 50, 60, 70, 80, 1 கோடியா தெரியாது. எல்லாத்தையும் விட்டாது. So Swamiji, I need your special ஆசீர்வாதம் for that. மோட்சம் இருக்கு, அது வேணாம். பட் now if it is a simpler one, it is okay, but it is 70 lakh. So therefore a person may die meditating on Land Cruiser. And he will cruise and goes to the next janma and born. He lands. So therefore he has to continue. Therefore we carry forward not only the punya papam, remember, we carry forward our desires also. Our unfulfilled desires come. And therefore we cannot help it. Therefore kamya karmas are bound to be there. And therefore Shastra says, let your initial stage of life be yoga kshema pradhana life. Yoga kshema na ஞாபகம் இருக்கோ? 9th chapter I said yoga means what? Acquisition. கொண்டு வா கொண்டு வா கொண்டு வா கொண்டு வா, சேர்த்து வைக்கிறது. Not only I acquire for me, but for handing over to the next generation. அவளுக்கு என்னன்னாலும் வில்லில் எழுதி வைக்கிறதுக்கு வேணும் இல்லையோ. So therefore I want to acquire for them also. If there are girls, one type of acquisition, boys, one type of acquisition, all of them, it is called yoga. And once I acquire, the next desire is what? Maintenance and holding on to it. That is called kshema. Our initial stage of life is yoga, kshema, pradhana. In fact, we have no time for anything. Until we marry, it is only the yoga kshema of myself. And once we are married, our brain is riddled with not only my yoga kshema, but also the Yogakshema of. Many of the parents, when they come and do namaskara nowadays, they ask for only one thing, Swamiji, public exam. உங்களுக்கு எங்க public exam? இல்ல பையனுக்கு. So they don't have any boon to ask from me. They all +2, 10 or in the entrance or IIT, ஒரே examination ஆசீர்வாத season. And நாளைக்கு Swamiji examination, அதுக்கு இன்னொரு extra நமஸ்காரம் வர. So therefore what Yogakshema a parent is interested in? The children's Yogakshema, husband's Yogakshema. So this is called Yogakshema Pradhana life. Krishna says, you do pray for that, but how to convert into Karma Yoga? You work for your Yogakshema, but whatever happens, learn to accept the consequence as God's will or prasada. So the child, if it is a CA exam, kakave vanda. Therefore the child may fail 7th time, maybe entrance examination may come, may not come, admission come, may not come. This is Yogakshema Pradhana Karma Yoga. And then comes the next stage. After some time, a person becomes more and more mature, and he understands that Yogakshema is an endless business, and therefore he learns to transfer some of the Yogakshema to yaar theriyadha? Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janah paryupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam vahamyaham. It is a very important skill that we have to develop. We have to learn to transfer a part of our Yogakshema concern to the Lord. Then only we will have time, that too quality time, and a relaxed mind for another set of activity which is meant for Chitta Shuddhi. Therefore, the second stage of Karma Yoga is involvement in those activities which are meant for Chitta Shuddhi. We call it Chitta Shuddhi Pradhana Karma or Nishkama Karma Pradhana Karma Yoga. So we do have time to pray to the Lord, also for the child's examination. Also we will add, எனக்கு கொஞ்சம் சித்த சுத்தியேன் குடு, அதை கேட்கறதுக்கு தோணும். If the mind is too much concerned, we cannot think of சித்த சுத்திங்கிறது ஒன்று இருக்கா இல்லையான்னு கூட தெரியாது. We cannot think of any other goal of life at all, because our mind is occupied with the settlement of the children. And settlement of the children will later get postponed to the grandchildren. That is later. So the second stage is Nishkama Karma Pradhana Karma Yoga, otherwise called Chitta Shuddhi Pradhana Karma Yoga. So in this, I don't ask for yoga, I don't ask for kshema. O Lord, whatever you give, I will learn to live with that. And whatever stays with me, I will learn to live with that. Very difficult stage, but we have to come to that. Then once we have gone through these two stages, together called Karma Yoga, we are ready for the third stage, which is called Ishta Devata Upasana. And each one is called what? Bhakti Yoga, remember. First is also called Bhakti Yoga, because devotion is required for the first stage, for the sake of Yogakshema. And in the second stage also I require bhakti. And in the third stage, I practice Ishta Devata Upasanam, and this is presented as the third stage because in the first stage, when my mind is full of yoga kshema concern, I cannot sit in meditation. And even if I sit in meditation, I will be thinking of either yoga or kshema. Only meditation simply doesn't happen. In fact, you continue your worry in sitting posture. So normally you worry in other postures. Now in Padmasana you worry. That will be the only difference. Therefore, only when we are able to transfer our yoga kshema concern to the Lord, mind finds some inner leisure, and only such a mind can spend some time forgetting the family, forgetting the future, forgetting money, forgetting all those things. Charana Kamalalayatil Aranimidam. It's possible. So this is called Ishta Devata Upasanam, which will equip me to turn my mind inwards. The extrovert mind will learn to withdraw, and that withdrawal is the third stage of sadhana, Ishta Devata Upasanam, and in the 12th chapter it is called Abhyasa Yoga. And which Ishta Devata is good, you need not ask. Any Devata is good enough. Any particular form of the Lord is okay. And once a person has gone through this stage, then he is ready for the fourth stage. As I said before, in the Ishta Devata Upasanam, there are advantages, but there are limitations also. Just one problem is, you may think that there are so many gods. And then you may begin to compare also, Shiva is greater or Vishnu is greater. That idea of division, etc. will be there. And also, the Lord or the deity that I visualize is bound by time and space. That is also another limitation. And therefore, to break these limitations, I have to learn to look at the Ishta Devata as the very Vishwarupa Ishvara. And once I look upon God as the total universe, you don't have many gods at all. You have got only one God with many nama. What is the difference between Vishwarupa Shiva and Vishwarupa Vishnu? There cannot be any difference, because Vishwarupa Shiva includes all names and forms. Vishwarupa Shiva includes all names and forms, and therefore there is no division, there is no question of comparison also. And also I understand that the Lord is not bound by form. And therefore this helps in the expansion of the mind. So it gives Chitta Vishalata. This is the fourth stage, called Vishwarupa Dhyanam or Aneka Rupa Dhyanam. And once a person has gone through these four stages, he is ready for the fifth stage. And only when a person goes through these four stages, he becomes Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampannaha. So in Tattva Bodha, we said that Vedanta begins, self-knowledge begins only after acquiring Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti. And this Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampatti is possible only by going through these 4 stages of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti, I have explained it in the Tattva Bodha. You have to go through that. In simple language, you can say that it is the mental preparedness for self-knowledge. And then, for this self-knowledge, a person has to go through the 5th level of Bhakti Yoga. And the 5th and final level of Bhakti Yoga is called Jnana Yoga. So the 5th and final level of Bhakti Yoga is Jnana Yoga itself. This alone Shankaracharya tells in his Viveka Chudamani, Swaswarupanu bhaktirityabhidhiyate. The final level of bhakti is self-enquiry. Swaswarupa anusandhanam. And this Jnana Yoga consists of Vedanta, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasanani. So, consistent and systematic study of Vedantic scriptures for a length of time under the guidance of a competent acharya. Marandu pedutho imposition edutha solluven. Don't worry. So, Shravanam is consistent and systematic study of Vedantic scriptures, not Purana. Vedantic scriptures which deal with Nirguna Ishvara. In the first 4 stages, you could manage with Saguna Ishvara. In the 5th level, you have to come to Nirguna Ishvara, which is discussed only in the Vedanta. Therefore, consistent and systematic study of Vedantic scriptures for a length of time under the guidance of a competent acharya. And Swamiji, how do you know this? Krishna doesn't say, so you are adding whatever you like. Krishna himself has said this in the 4th chapter. I have only pulled out that from the 4th chapter and I am putting here. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Arjuna, you have to necessarily go to a guru and open yourself and ask for this teaching and consistently follow this Shravanam. But what about those people who never had a guru? Odane mind anga pohum. So here we are talking about the general rule. But for every general rule, there are exceptions also. Because there are spiritual geniuses. In the case of spiritual genius, a guru is not required. Therefore, in their case, they gain knowledge in an exceptional way. Just as there was a Ramanujan, mathematics genius, he could do mathematics without the help of a teacher. The teacher himself did not understand him. And just because a Ramanujan did not require, if you abolish all mathematics schools and teachers, that becomes ridiculous. When we are talking about general rule, never quote an exception, and therefore everyone requires a guru. And suppose you say, Swamiji, I am a spiritual genius and therefore I am an exception, then I will tell you, you don't require. But our problem is what? In spite of a guru, we don't understand. இது guru இல்லாம என்னத்தை புரிஞ்சுக்க போறோம்? So therefore, Shravanam from Guru is required. Then comes the Mananam, which is the removal of all the doubts until my intellect is convinced that the Nirguna Ishvara is not different from me, the real me. Tad Brahma Ahamasmi. Aham Brahmasmi. Our intellect will not easily accept it, but until we accept, we have to find out what is the intellectual obstacle for accepting this, and whatever be the obstacles in the form of doubt, we have to remove. It is a long process we have to go through, which is called Mananam. And once a person has gone through Shravanam and Mananam, then he has to go through Nididhyasanam, by which we mean assimilation of this teaching. By which we mean repeatedly reminding my higher nature to myself. So the nature that I know now is my lower nature, that I am so and so, I am born on such and such date, I have got these qualifications, I am so many years old, whatever biodata I give now, they all belong to the incidental ahankara. I have to remind myself of my higher Atma nature. This self-reminder is called Nididhyasanam. Thus, by following Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam, I assimilate this teaching, and once the teaching is assimilated, this intellectual knowledge will bring about an emotional transformation. Because most of our problems are at the emotional level. Raga, Dvesha, Kama, Krodha, Bhayam, all these are emotional problems. Samsara is experienced at the emotional level, and therefore this knowledge has to transform my emotional personality. Until then, I continue Nididhyasanam. And these three sadhanas put together, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, is called the fifth level of Jnana Yoga. And once a person has gone through all the 5 levels of Bhakti Yoga, he becomes a Jnani, a Sthira Prajnaha, to use the second chapter expression. So thus, Krishna talks about all the 5 levels. The first 4 levels belong to the Veda Purva Bhaga, and the 5th and final level belongs to Veda Anta Bhaga. And this is given from verse number 3 to verse number 12. Verse number 3 to verse number 12 is the 5-staged Bhakti Yoga. And incidentally, you should remember that these 5 levels are not clear-cut division. Not that you follow one and complete it, you go to the second one, and once you come to the second one, the first one is gone. Once you gone to the third one, second one is gone. It is not a clear-cut division. Everybody will be following all the sadhanas, but one will be predominant. Therefore, it is not a clear-cut division that we should remember. And now comes the second part of the 12th chapter, which is from verse number 13 to verse number 19. And that topic is Bhakti Yoga Phalam, the benefit of Bhakti Yoga. You should remember, when a person has gone through all the 5 stages of Bhakti Yoga, he has attained the knowledge Aham Brahma Asmi. Therefore, the direct benefit of Bhakti Yoga is Atma Jnanam Aham Brahmasmi, which means Aham Purnaha Asmi. And what will any knowledge lead to? What is the benefit of any type of knowledge? The benefit of any knowledge is removal of ignorance. Jnanasya phalam ajnana nivrittihi. The benefit of knowledge is freedom from ignorance. And if I get physics knowledge, I will get freedom from what ignorance? Chemistry ignorance. No. Physics knowledge removes physics ignorance. English knowledge will remove English ignorance. Self-knowledge will remove self-ignorance. Therefore, directly the benefit is experienced at the intellectual level only. Because I have got self-knowledge, I am free from self-ignorance. Therefore, the direct benefit is only at the intellectual level. The emotional benefits are only indirect benefits. They are only corollaries. And therefore, you should know how removal of self-ignorance gives me emotional benefits. What is the connection between intellectual knowledge and emotional benefit? The connection is not very direct. Therefore, we have to understand how. Because what I am doing is an intellectual exercise. But the benefit presented is what? Emotional benefits. How we should know? So this is the fundamental of Vedanta. I have not discussed this during the course of the 12th chapter. But being important, I thought I will just mention. See, Vedanta points out, it reveals that Purnatvam is our real nature. Purnatvam means what? Completeness, self-sufficiency, self-adequacy is my real nature. But unfortunately, whatever be the reason, we do not know the fact that Aham Purnaha Asmi. We do not know. Because we are born with ignorance of everything, and therefore ignorance of our real nature also. We are born with English ignorance, we are born with Sanskrit ignorance, we are born with mathematics ignorance. All ignorance we are born with. In fact, that is our capital. Enna capital na ignorance. And as we learn one by one, the ignorance goes away. When I learn English, English ignorance goes. So just as other ignorances, if I can use plural, other types of ignorance are there, self-ignorance is also there. Therefore, I don't know Aham Purnaha Asmi. If I had known, anybody asked, who are you? I would have said, Aham Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Appadi solromo? Nobody introduces that way. That means it is very clear we are ignorant. And Vedanta points out, when I do not know I am Purnaha, naturally I am going to mistake myself as I am Apurnaha. Ignorance of Purnatvam leads to the mistake of Apurnatvam. When the fact is not known, so many other things are imagined. To put in technical language, Ajnanam leads to Adhyasa. Ignorance leads to erroneous conclusion. And the erroneous conclusion is what? Aham Apurnaha. Apurnaha means what? I am an incomplete person. And this erroneous conclusion is at what level? It is at the intellectual level. Ignorance belongs to intellect. Error also belongs to the intellect. Up to this is intellectual problem. Then what happens? When I feel incomplete, naturally I have a desire to complete myself. And therefore I go on struggling in life to make myself Purnaha by various methods. As a child, I think a balloon or a toy will make me a complete one. Balastavat kridasaktaha. And once this person is an adult, he thinks that life will be incomplete if there is a wife or a husband. As he is going by the motorbike, there is nobody sit behind. Somebody has to sit behind and put the hand on the round tummy. Okay. I am complete now. So therefore, this problem was for Brahmaji himself, it seems. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says, Savainaiva reme tasmad ekaki naramate sadvitiyam aichat. So Brahmaji also wanted a missus. So therefore, I go on thinking, this will complete me, this will complete me, this will complete me. And the whole life is searching for something which will make my life complete. This is called kamaha. And this kama is a problem at the emotional level. So this apurnatvam to kama is the shifting of the problem from the intellectual to emotional. And when I am not able to fulfill my kama, or somebody obstructs the fulfillment, then there is krodha. Because of you only, I could not do that. Krodha is an emotional problem. And when the kama is fulfilled, then also I don't solve the problem, because finite plus finite is equal to finite. Therefore, fulfillment of desire will lead to more kama, which is called lobha. So, unfulfilled kama leads to krodha. Fulfilled kama leads to lobha. Thus we have got into the trap of kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya. In fact, all your emotional problems begin with this kama. And this kama is because of what? The erroneous conclusion that I am apurnaha. Therefore, the root of emotional problem is at the intellectual level. Problem is emotional, but the root is intellectual. And therefore, you have to study the scriptures and solve the problem at the intellectual level. Then it will gradually transform your emotional personality. Because when I am Purnaha, I know I am full and complete whether things are around or not. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyeva atmana tushtaha sthita prajnastadocyate. Expectations are not there, frustrations are not there, complaints are not there. And therefore, all the benefits mentioned in this portion are the emotional benefits, but the cause is what? Intellectual knowledge. And therefore, Krishna enumerates them from verse number 13 to 19. I am not going to each and every one, but I will present in a nutshell. All our transactions are from three different levels. I as a karta in the world, as the doer of varieties of action. That is one role I play. And the second role I play is I as the bhokta, receiving varieties of experiences. And the third is I as a pramata, how I look at the world, my perspective as an observer. And Krishna says, at all the three levels, there will be total transformation. As a karta, what is the transformation? My actions are no more born out of a sense of incompleteness. It is not because I am apurna, I am doing the action. Because after knowledge, I am purnaha. Therefore, all my actions are not meant for fulfillment, but they are done with fulfillment. And therefore, there is no more any motive. Karma phalam vandalum aham purnaha. Karma phalam varatalum aham purnaha. Therefore, there is a very great relief. There is no concern, there is no tension. So therefore, I act from purnatvam, not from apurnatvam. One change. And when I am full and complete, a mind which has fullness will always express only love. Fullness expresses in the form of love and compassion. Therefore, all the actions are born out of love and compassion for others. This is the second transformation. And the third transformation is, since the action comes from love, compassion, without expectation and concern, the quality of the actions are excellent, because when the mind is undisturbed, the performance is always better. And therefore, every action is appropriate and sound action, dakshaha. So thus, as a karta, his motive is not fulfillment. It comes with purnatvam, with love, with compassion. Similarly, as a bhokta, Krishna says, since he operates from strength that aham purnaha asmi, he is not vulnerable to emotional disturbance like anger, impulsive reaction, etc. cannot come. He has got a shock absorber. And therefore patience, freedom from impulsive reaction, not vulnerable to emotional disturbances. In fact, he is emotionally an immunized person, is from bhokta level. So emotional resistance is the second benefit. And the third and final is, as a pramata, as an observer, his perspective of creation is samatvam. Samatvam, whatever be the type of experience, mana, apamana, sukha, dukkha, shita, ushna, etc., his mind enjoys samatvam or equanimity, which means he is not subject to raga and dvesha. So these are the transformations which will take place as a result of this knowledge. And then Krishna concludes by pointing out that to get this particular benefit, there is no shortcut at all. Everyone has to go through all the 5 stages if a person has to attain this benefit. Etu dharmyamritamidam yathoktam paryupasate shraddadhana matparamaha bhaktastetiva me priya. One has to go through all the 5 stages to attain this phalam called Jivan Muktihi. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi.